3.6 lakhs package, man. So that's the thing. So the offer that I had rather than Zomato was Infosys on campus. So DSA is a part, we can't skip that. But basically, when you're going for off campus, DSA will help you in your interview, but development will get you shortlisted for that. Development is the thing that they'll figure out, okay, this person is a better dev than all the other people that there are.
Yeah, जब हम DSA की बात कर ही रहे हैं, as you said, the question that was asked to you was from Lead Code Hard. So like if we talk about DSA, so there also exists a confused space where some people say that you must go for lead code, others say that you must go for code chef, others say that ki code forces kar lo, and some people say that ki यार lead code छोड़ो, code forces छोड़ो, आप अपना वो code chef पे अच्छा सा rank बनाओ और 4 star 5 star बन जाओ, CP करो. So Bhaiya, what's your comment? What's your take on this?
So yeah, I think there's already a lot of takes going in the market because we have a whole lot of YouTubers in DSA now. So what has helped me or has worked for me or anyone else that I know, there were a lot of new folks that joined Zomato with me. Those people were coming from IITs. So I asked them, like, what did you do in your college? We did DSA in development. So they said they did code forces. Some of them said code forces, some of them said lead code. So their interest came down to mathematics. Like a lot of CP comes down to mathematics. What I have heard, I have never tried it, so don't trust my advice 100%. So it depends on your preferences. If you are comfortable with going, but just to clear some confusion, only go to core forces according to me once you have your fundamentals clear. And fundamental clear is not determined by the number of questions you do, it's by the number of concepts you know. So you can also do 5. I still have less than 250 questions on lead code. GFG, I'll say less than 300, but okay. So just don't go directly to core forces and all, because the companies visiting in your campus or even in off campus are not expecting code forces out of you. They're expecting, okay, come on, like reversal linked list. I'm just giving an example. So it comes down to whatever you do, just have sound fundamentals. Either use GFG or lead code. The reason why I preferred this, and I'm still using lead code, like even if I show my browsing history, I was doing a lead code problem 2 hours ago. So the reason I prefer these is it builds up familiarity with the concept. GFG is very good in this. You can go and select trees. I want trees question, and then you can do similar questions. So once you have done a specific amount of questions on a topic, then you can even handle a new question if it comes out of the blue. Like in my case, it was lead code hard, but it was related to sliding window approach. So once again, it comes down to your preference. If you have your fundamentals cleared, go for code forces. Give it a try. Don't have this regret that Abhishek Bhaiya said कि नहीं करना है तो नहीं करेंगे. Go and give it a try. But if lead code and GFG works for you, it is the best thing.
Okay, sure, Bhaiya. So we had discussed a lot about DSA. So today we are more focused about the Android thing. So I would like to take you think this thing forward and बताइए कि क्या करना है.
Sure. So I'll get started. So basically, this was a blog that I wrote in my previous company, and first part is basically giving you an intro. What is Android development? Why do we need it? And just giving some hint. You asked me a question, right? Like, how did I figure out Android was going to be my tech stack?
Yes, Bhaiya.
Someone at BPIT told me Android is a dead market. So, there will be a lot of people whose opinion don't match to yours, but you just have to figure it out. So, I will be sharing these links later on, but I'll just go overall, like why I still prefer native development over cross-platform. And the reason is, like, recently Notion.io, I guess everyone might have heard of them. They shifted from cross-platform to native code base, and they had improved performance by a lot. So abhi bhi cross-platform is still into its nascent stages. So I basically can give a talk on native. So coming to native, first of all, choose your tech stack, what you want to work on. There are multiple. You can have Java or Kotlin, React Native, Flutter, and PWA is also a part. Progressive web apps, as they call it. So don't just, I'm basically reading out an article, but rather than remembering the boilerplate, you should remember the logic. So as also we have in DSA, right? We tell you to remember the logic of the concept, I'll say, rather than remembering the code. So, then first of all, you have to decide which tech stack do you have to choose, and it can be any of these that interest you. I'm not saying there are less jobs in React Native or Flutter. These are just coming new into the industry, and companies are hesitant to shift on Flutter completely. Reason is because I have myself worked on each of these technologies and I know what goes inside. Why is native preferred right now? Okay, just figure out your tech stack, then and how to start is the most important part. So you should never directly jump to development without having clear fundamentals about that programming language. Like if you don't have clear fundamentals about oops in your Java, I won't suggest you making Android apps in Java. Like that won't help. You won't understand how to apply core CS concepts. So just start with Java, and there's a little bit of debate around Java versus Kotlin. So Kotlin was introduced as an improvement over Java to make our lives easier. So even if you start with Kotlin, that's not a blocker. But just do remember that, okay, this is what we are doing in Kotlin. What was the alternative in Java? So that will help you a lot. And in interviews, in DSAs, etc., I've been using Java for a while. So that's why I stuck to Java started off with Java as Android. And then I'm right now writing code in Kotlin. But I still write DSA questions in Java because that's my familiarity right now. Coming to the second part. So yeah, once again, I'm just summing the first part up is figure out your tech stack, what you want to learn, and then figuring out your sources. And sources is something like, we have internet. You can find any course on torrent for free. So just figure out what you want to learn, where you want to learn from, and cool. So basically, this is an Android roadmap that I wrote that I think will help you a lot in case you are, just getting into the industry, making a first app, whatever is the case. So first of all, we have Android X in the picture. So yeah, rather than boring you guys out with all the finer details, I'll just give you a simple example. So you don't have to follow my advice for starting Android development. Google yourself Android developer roadmaps. You will have thousands of YouTube videos coming, and you will have a lot of Medium articles coming from the best people I know in Android. For example, we have this GitHub repo. It's an roadmap. It's developed by someone at Steam, and these people are very nice Android devs, I'll say. So, just getting your fundamentals cleared, keep your language in mind. This is something that you will skip on the starting parts that I don't want to handle permissions, etc. right now. But so basically my roadmap is based on this, but just to make your lives a lot easier, because if you give this term by the name of Android app entry points, a fresher won't understand anything. I also couldn't if I was 2 years back in my development. So coming back to this, you just have to start off with the fundamentals, like what is the architecture of Android operating system. It was asked to me in an interview, not at Zomato, but at another firm. Then what all are the significance of files, what all things we use to write codes, activity services, broadcast receiver, content providers. And whatever I mentioned in this roadmap, it's not necessary that you have working experience on this. It wasn't even expected from me at any of the interviews I gave. Even if I knew what this thing does, I'll calling it a thing to avoid confusion. What content provider does, I can tell my interviewer, okay, this is what it does, but I've never worked on it. So that's all right. At least you're clear with your fundamentals, what you know and what you don't know. Then code components are something that, you can have Kotlin or Java to render your applications. Activities and fragments are divided into two parts in Android. So, yep. And then you have UI, how we actually make screens out of this. Like this whole screen can be summed up into UI components. This is a list, etc. So we have different types of layouts. I've attached all the references from developers.android.com. And processing is something, so once again, all these topics are something that you should have an overview of, not in-depth details, in case you are a developer coming out of your project, just college out, let's say. So just having some basic intro about these will help you a lot. View binding, I've written it in bracket. It was an improvement over find view by ID. So anyone who has worked in Android knows this thing, find view by ID, what it does. It's an improvement. We have view models, we have architectures. I also have a slide over architectures. And then this is network calls for making API calls. We have a lot of libraries we can use. We can write our own. In your case, you need it. You have storage, how to store the data. SQLite can be stored. It's basically an SQL databases for mobile apps. RoomDB is an improvement over that, and preferences are key value pair, what we have learned in hash maps, etc. Then you have navigations that, how do we go from one screen to another? Bottom navigation is what Instagram uses. I haven't used it in a while, so I hope they are still on bottom navigation. Navigation drawer is something that LinkedIn uses. You click on your profile, you see your side menu opening. And then extra things that are required, but these are not necessary according to me. You can have Google Play services. How you earn revenue from an app is Google AdMobs, Firebase, how you create databases and how you publish an app on Play Store. So these are things that according to me you should learn, but this is the most important part. How should you learn about these concepts? So you can follow any course that you like, any YouTube tutorial or any, I'll say, Medium blog also. But not, you won't find all of these topics or anything in a single source. So just feel free to, just let us say you want to get started with this thing, and feel free to hit it up on Google, paste your query Android, and this is an infinite source of information. That is what I preferred, and that is what I'm still doing till now. That you have to figure out yourself where do you want to learn that from, and then you can find the topic, go to the official document, read, and try to understand the theory. Even if you don't know, that's not a big problem. Like I can see here, this is the official documentation. And yep, so this documentation is a little bit confusing because it's a documentation. It wasn't written as a blog to make it informative, but it gives you whole idea whatever it is. And then you can actually go back and see there's a lot of article, like let us say suppose GFG, for example. GFG gives you an implementation of the same. So basically in 10 minutes max to max, I can develop an whole application that uses the same. So this was about the second part. And once you have learned these topics now, it's not like you have to learn all of them before making your first app in Android. There's a lot of pathways out there, and I did take a session at BPIT before. Study exams. Give me a second. I'll give you the official resource. Cool. Yep. Pathway. Pathway 1. Should have somewhere mentioned cooler. But okay, anyway, this is where you can learn if you're getting started in Android. You can start with your Android development, then you can have basics, you can go off with that. And these are the slides that that are used to teach an Android study exams. But you can also find my sessions recording on YouTube. I think it must be under GDSC BPIT that I took initially for study exams. So it's not like you have to learn all of these before making your first Android app. It's just like getting the fundamentals clear, what you need in an application and what you basically will be requiring for that project or not. And how do you scope that out? So one important thing that I come across is a number of times we learn all the concepts, but we don't have projects that are using all of these. So what you need to do is whatever project you make, and there are once again a heck of projects that you can make. You can even clone Instagram, even if you apply Android fundamentals, whatever I mentioned in this, or even in this roadmap. So you just don't have to learn every single thing that's mentioned here. You just have to learn something, and then you can go ahead and make a simple notes app. I'll say Android. Cool. I need to write studio. Okay. So you can find the simplest node up there. You can find it on if you wanted to Java or anything like that. Just you can follow a tutorial like this, and this won't be needing a lot of things from that roadmap. But if you go by project-based learning, it will help you a lot rather than going after learning all the topics first and then starting your development journey. So think of a problem statement like I want to make a notes app. Then think what all things will I be requiring in terms of Android, and there might be a number of times that you won't know what the term is actually. I can like list of items in Android. This is what a nascent person will write, and here still you are getting list views. So this is the thing that we require in Android to load list. So this is how simple it is that you can load list using this. But that's the thing. So you need to just figure out what all will be requiring, and it is parts in API level 1, matlab initial days of Android, first release that we had. You just need to figure out what all will you be requiring, and then just go on and implement that in your projects. And the next part that I have before Q&A is like the issue that I think people are doing wrong in Android development is I'll just sort of come up to that. And since it is a beginner based session, I won't be covering MVVM in depth because that is something that requires a lot of knowledge of Android before getting started. Cool. So basically, how do we learn any tech stack? It's for a beginner, we go from tutorials or courses. Then for intermediate, is tutorial and tech blogs. Medium, I'll say. I read a lot of medium blogs to keep my knowledge up to date. Expert and legends is the key part here. We use blogs and Stack Overflows because Stack Overflow is the best part. So what we basically do is we see a tutorial from Udemy, YouTube, whatever it is. We make the same project. We follow it line by line, each step blindly. And at the end, we do have a project. So at this point, you have everything that you need to know about implementation, but you don't know what is in depth. You can have I'll say an application of 50,000 lines of code, but if you can't explain it to me under 5 seconds, now what it does, like simple, it's a notes app that take notes. So you lack in-depth understanding of how things work. And what I think will be the fix for this is like whenever you are learning something, now do try to figure out what was the alternative of this thing. Like example is MVVM. It is an architecture pattern that Android uses, but there are a lot of other alternatives also. There are a lot of, like I mentioned, SQLite was something that was being used initially back in the days, like 1 or 2 years before. But now we use RoomDB because it has made our lives easier. So that's the point that I'm trying to make. Whatever you learn, just try to add a why factor to it so that you can figure out, okay, why am I using this and how is it even working in depth? That will make your understanding of any tech stack much more clearer than it would be for, just following the tutorial blindly. Cool, so you guys can ask questions if you have any.
Yeah, first of all, I also have a few questions related to Android only.
Sure.
Before going to the Q&A, I will ask a bit of this. So as you know, there has been a lot of debate going on between Android and iOS. I don't want to get between that. But the thing is that recently there have been launched many cross-platforms. How do you see the future of these cross-platforms as a job in future?
It's a very nice market, and right now the problem that I see is a lot of startups, like even small companies, you have an idea, so you don't want to actually go and learn a new cross-platform framework for developing that app. So the reason it is still lacking behind, it's an awesome thing, I'll tell you. It's a blessing to have same source code for any number of platforms, Flutter or any other alternative that we have. But the problem that I see right now is performance and the developer community for the same. Performance issue is basically cross-platform works like this. You write the same source code and it is converted to the bytecode respective to that platform. Like Android requires Java. Android runs on Java, right? JVM is the thing that controls whole Android. So basically a Flutter code will be converting that to a Java class for Android and let us say a Swift class for iOS. So that overhead makes it slower, and then you need to write code that will work in both of these. And iOS has, like, best example I can give is privacy concerns. So iOS can deny a permission, but Android will say, "Theek hai, le lo, I don't care. I don't care if you use location. You can use whatever you want to do with that." So that's the thing. Like, there are a lot of openings, but there are not that many openings that you will see in native.
Sure. So we're taking this forward. I would ask everybody to put up their questions in the chat box, or like if they have, they can even turn on their mic and ask, but like in a well-mannered way.
How to do development and DSA side by side. Cool, Ashutosh. So there has to be a balance between these two. You can't do just whole development or whole DSA. And it can be, I think, assuming that your colleges are in offline mode, then you will have to figure out a balance between doing at least a question or two of DSA daily and working a little bit on your project. That is the balance that you will guys have to figure out yourself. Whatever works for you. Might be you can give 2 hours to DSA, 3 hours to development, anything of these two, but at least try to keep a mixture of these both, depending on the time that you have in a day remaining. Can you list your projects when you applied for Zomato and what text has been used in those projects? Cool. In order to do that, I'll have to open my resume to show you. Just give me a second. I'll stop my screen share. I'll reshare it with my resume. And meanwhile, I'll answer how to get an Android dev internship at mid-sized startup. Bro, how do you define mid-sized startup? Can you please, Abhishek, be more clear? Like, there are a lot of startups out there. Can we begin with Flutter and Dart without any previous knowledge? Yeah, for sure, man. I also worked on that. And the reason I gave up Flutter after an internship was just the fact that I realized that there were not a lot of openings. So for saver side of jobs, like, or whatever you can call it, I stuck to native itself. Didn't made a switch. And so I'll just show my screen. Just a second. Abhishek asks React Native versus Android Native. Bro, React Native is, since it is more inclined toward the iOS side of things, like you want to publish your app for iOS also. And the problem in that comes down to whether you have an iOS. So Zomato is not a mid-size. Okay, ठीक है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं. But the perception is Zomato, Uber, etc. Cool. So as compared to fans like Microsoft and Google, they are a mid-size. But ठीक है, we'll come back to in a minute. So React Native versus Android. So answering this, React Native versus Android Native. So the reason, once again, as I mentioned, Android Native is the preferred tech stack right now because of the performance issues. Like if you open Zomato and the app takes 5 seconds to load, you won't be coming back to Zomato. Trust me. So that's the thing. Companies want to optimize on experimenting new things related to tech stacks or I'll say approaches, but they don't want to, go all in and lose everything that they stand for. So that's the thing. Like whatever works for you, even if there are a lot of openings for Android Native, React Native do have openings, but I'll say one out of five is in React Native openings for mobile jobs that I come across on LinkedIn. And I'll show my projects. Yeah, so it was nothing out of the box. What really helped me out was this overleaf template, and it is inspired from Love Bubba's video. Shout out to him for actually sharing this thing. So I did nothing fancy here. I just wrote the tech stack that I worked on, and for projects, this one was a Node project, and I'll just open it on GitHub. And whatever I used was clearly mentioned how I did it. And for Android app, this you can see we have Java, XML, Firebase, GCP. So I didn't actually go out of the way to write something fancy like, oh, I improved the loading time and blah, blah, blah. It was as simple and as easy I could keep my resume so that whenever someone asks me what you worked on, so I can actually go in-depth details and tell them, okay, how you should do things. And for the last projects that I made, give me a second. What was the last one? Cool. So this is a project that I've been maintaining for a while. So this contains all the things. So it contains Firebase, it has coroutines, Hilt, all the new things that I can try in Android. And right now I'm working on test-driven development for this application. So it isn't specific, like to answer question from Sumit. It isn't specific that you need to make a notes app to go into a small app organization. You can do anything. This was something that was suiting my use case, so I developed this. You can make a movie app. There are a lot of apps that you can try to make in Android. Movie app, same way as web. Movie app, notes app. You can have an alarm clock, etc. Whatever suits your use case. So there's no clear answer to that. But for what text I've been using those projects, so it's simple, man. Android, Java, Kotlin, and Firebase for the Macs, or even Node databases. But Node is something that I learned in as a side thing, not as full in terms of job. It was something that I wanted to learn to make the back-end development journey easier. So that's the thing. And Abhishek, coming to your question, how to get and you have designed mid-sized startups as Zomato and Uber. So yeah, basically these companies hire the best talent. Reason for that is there is a lot of Android devs in the market. I know this because I've seen. So in order to get there, I'll prefer what worked for me. I joined a normal company before, and then I came to this because at least it gave me the exposure to learn a lot of things. That's the biggest part, I'll say. You need to have a clear listing of what you worked on, and that will help you a lot. And do you prefer any YouTube channel for dev? No, I don't have a single preference. There is Philip Lackner for dev. For Android, I'm assuming. Philip Lackner is there. He's a very nice, I'll say, YouTuber in this term. But the biggest preference I have is developers.android.com. Their YouTube channel is a gem, and it's underrated to the part that we don't get a lot of views on that. Just go on if you want to get clear fundamentals. Go on to their YouTube channel, search a topic. There's a 99% chance you will find the official, documentation as a video from Google people. And why are the best sources to tell you that? Because they made that project. Like, let us suppose you say you have Compose camp going on right now in BPIT, I suppose. So if you have a third person telling you about Compose and the person who developed Compose himself, who's a product manager at Google, who's working on Compose themselves, so you can understand what's the level of clarity developer.android.com can give you in terms of learning. So once again, don't keep your single source of learning broke. Like, keep it as spread as it can be. Don't be dependent on a single source. Go for experimenting and figuring out things on the go. Best source for Android development. There is none. I started from a torrent course from Udemy. I didn't even pay for that. So there's no single best source. While you're working on something, you'll figure out, okay, this course is good enough or not according to the industry standards. And that is when you should try a lot, I'll suggest. There is no single source like Code with Harry, etc. Whatever works for you. Google Android development roadmap. We have a video from Manuj Bhaiya and I guess Lev Babbar also. But in that case, whatever works for you, go on with that. Try that single source. Might be helpful, might be not. Abhishek asks, how was your Zomato interview like? The structure, solely theoretical or assignment based? So before getting into Zomato, I applied to 4 different companies and I cleared interviews for all of them. None of them were as big as Zomato, of course. That's why I'm here. But the thing is, like, it comes down to both of these. Dev interviews, you can expect it to be hybrid. They can also have assessment because that is when they figure out, okay, do you know dev or not? And they can also be theoretical. So in my case, it was both. For Zomato, they asked me both of these things. Theoretical knowledge about core CS concepts also, not just TSA, because that is also required a lot. And it was both of these. Shikhar asked me, how can I get referral in Zomato? Especially for boys, there are very less no opening for boys. Bro, there are no openings for Zomato for anyone. The reason I communicated the girls thing was because I came across anything. They only hire peeps on campus from IITs. So just getting an internship or referral in anywhere. So when you're sending a LinkedIn message, don't send them a hi or something. Like, I even receive a lot of messages saying, yo, hi bhaiya and all. But tell me that, okay, you want a referral, then also send me a message that I've been working on this tech stack, I've made these projects and this is my resume. So I'll actually see your resume then and I'll figure out, okay, whether you're worth referring or not. Because a lot of cases, what happens is if I refer every single one, you guys will get destroyed in the interviews. Because I know that's a risk that I'm taking. But if you're a good dev, I'll be more than happy to refer you in case there's an opening. Should one start iOS or Android dev? What about the opportunities in both? I have come significantly long enough in iOS. Are there openings in the iOS dev? Yes, there are, Mayank. There are a lot of openings in iOS as well. And considering product-based companies, iOS is also bread and butter for a lot of them because I'll say a lot of rich percentage of India owns iOS phones. So you can't just compare, 2 jobs at same time. But native jobs are right now a lot more than what we have in iOS, but there are openings in iOS also. And iOS is a very niche skill that a lot of people don't know iOS. That's a good thing that can help you if you have been working in iOS for a while. You have not done 3 months in, is there any specific reason? So, Sumit, answering your question, these companies were not something that were offering more than 3 months of internships. These were very unknown startups or service-based company per se. So we had a product to develop. I developed that product end to end, and I was good to go. So it came down to that. Could have been in a month, and since in the last one I made a whole social media application by myself, it took me 3 months to make that. So that's the reason. It's not like if had I had the luxury of working at Zomato as a 6-month intern, I would have been here for a year to intern, like we do with Amazon, etc. So that was the case. These are not big enough companies that were able to give PP or anything like that. That's the reason for having small spans of internships. Cool. Any other question, guys? Uh, I did receive a list of questions asked by you in the Google form. How to prepare for Gsock? So yeah, basically Gsock is more about filtering out the organization that you want to, contribute to rather than contributing to the actual one. Because filtering out is the biggest part. I also tried for Gsock back in the days, but I had to focus on DSA. That's why I gave Gsock up and went all in on DSA. So Gsock is something figure out the organizations by seeing the historical data. Go to their issues. I might not be the right person to ask this, but I can just give you an overview. Go to their issues and see if actually it is something that your knowledge of development can solve. Then reply on this issue thread and get in contact. If that issue is assigned to you, then you're good to go and clear that issue, get your PR merged, and that gives you a lot of recognition in the developer community. Having Gsock. How to prepare to get a job in Google? Okay, so this question is not once again, I might not be the right person to answer this. So getting a job at Google, what I know is clear your fundamentals one, like whatever I've heard on LinkedIn. So fundamentals in something that is required anywhere. And I can't answer this question because I'm not at Google right now. I can tell you about Zomato, not for the process ahead. Scope for how to maintain consistency during the learning phase of any development. So yeah, it comes down to your will to continue in that. Like in case you want a job now, you will maintain your consistency. So when I was coming out of college, I didn't had a single. I told you, I had an Infosys 3.6, and I still have it to this day. I haven't gotten my joining letter from them yet, but that is the consistency. So I knew that I am not a good fit for this job. I deserve better. So that is where consistency came out of that. And learning phase is once you develop projects, then you will see, okay, this is helping me. I am able to build something meaningful out of whatever I'm learning, and then you can go ahead and continue on that. How can one college student know where he or she stands? So yeah, for this, cracking the interviews, it comes down to that. If you're able to crack a Amazon level interview, you are a good dev. But it doesn't mean that if you're not able to crack an interview, you're a bad college student or something like that. There are a lot of factors in interview, excluding your learning and whatever you have practiced to that point. I've experienced this myself. Sometimes the interviewer is not in the mood, as we say it, then it can be a bad interview. But I had the privilege of giving awesome interviews at Zomato, and that's why I'm here. That people were patient to listen to me. We were able to discuss solution rather than answering to them, and that is what helped me in my case getting into Zomato. How to revise a topic before interviews? Cool topic for this thing. Give me a second. I have a gem of a resource that I use myself for topics. Cool. I hope it's visible. Yep. So this is the GitHub repo of MindDocs. It's a very nice platform for Android knowledge, and this is where you will find every single question on Android that's asked in. That's irrespective of company tags, that which company was it asked in. You can search and you'll find every single thing. I said MVVM, you can find it here. You also have design questions, you can see how, if someone asks you in an interview how to design Uber, you can also answer that. This is what I used to, do before interviews is I'll head over to this, I'll get my fundamentals cleared in whatever I feel that I'm not so confident about. And this single repo has helped me a lot in order to clear a lot of interviews, because it's gem. It saves you a lot of time in searching things, what you actually need to do. We have hyperlinks, whatever you want to learn, etc. Cool. So any more question, guys? Okay, I think I just have few questions remaining on the sheet. I'll cover that.
Yeah, I guess there are some more questions coming up in the chat box as well.
Oh, damn. Sorry, my scroll was stuck up. My bad.
No worries.
Share your LinkedIn profile. Cool. We'll share that, and we'll meanwhile see other questions as well. LinkedIn. Okay, thank you for sharing that. medium link to do. Working in an organization, how you get this time to much work on a personal project? Yeah, it is once again coming down to the fact that I want more. It's the hunger that I have, that I can learn more and I can be a better developer. So that is what I do. I take time outs on what works for me is doing companies work on weekdays and hustling on weekend. Not hustling in terms of startups, etc. It's just for my learning. So I just head over to whatever is new in Android or whatever I have on my list to learn next, and I start with that. So you just have to find a balance once again. Work-life balance is something you hear in this industry, but I heard it somewhere: work harder on yourself than you work on your job. So I think that's been working for me right now. And Google Android developer swag. So I don't have any swags, man. Like, sorry, I don't get any specific swags for being an Android dev from Google. Personal projects versus open source. Cool. So basically, before contributing to open source, you should have a little bit of information about the tech stack on your personal projects, but you can directly contribute also. So you can start off in your project. Then there are a lot of people on LinkedIn who are just starting a project on Android, I'll say, and you can connect with them, ask them, okay, can I contribute? That's open source. You can just go on and contribute in something. But what works for me is contributing only works when you know in depth of what you are already working on. I make Android apps, but most of the time the UI just sucks. Should a new Android dev also focus on the UI part? No, just copy designs from Dribble. What worked for me, I guess you might have heard of this site, Dribble. I'll share my screen because this thing requires a screen share. Cool. Okay, cool. Now let us say I have to make a notes app. So I won't do the struggling of creating myself on Adobe XD or Figma. Anyway, they are the same now. ठीक है. ठीक है. तो basically signing in is required to open it. Give me a second. We'll just do a quick sign in. I'm in, and let's come back to Notes app. What's works? This has worked for me. I don't actually create the UI for any of the app that I do. I just take inspiration from here. Imagine making a Notes app this cool. That's the thing. So you have designers here. You can hire them, but we are not here for hiring them. So just take an inspiration out of their design and make it in your Android apps. So it's not proprietary anyway that you can't design this in your apps, but having this bit of a UI, I'm not saying add this all fancy stuff in your app to make it like this new button. It requires canvas, so don't go for that. But wherever you do, take inspiration from these sites. Don't actually have to create everything on your own. And UI part will suck. It sucks for me too, but it's a part. You don't like. We need to show the data fetch from backend to front end, right, for the user to know. The UI is part of the process. In which year did you took dev seriously? Like, when did you start dev with full focus? Yeah, it was for full focus on August 2020. I gave it for the last 9 or 10 months in my DSA preparation. Not last time. Oh, I gave it from March to August for my DSA when the session was coming to an end. So that is when I knew, okay, I've developed a lot of things in Android. Now it's time to focus on DSA because I didn't had a lot on my part on DSA. So dev was my first priority since 2020, second year of my college. And that what worked for me. And at the end, I switched full focus to DSA. Once I got my job, I was working on In-AppDesk. I was working on development and I was also doing DSA side by side. So that's a balance that I figured out. And what is all expected out of a fresher who's getting started in the industry? Like Abhishek, not a lot of things. Just I mentioned, you studied 4 years of programming fundamentals and computer science fundamentals, OS, OOPS, DBMS, computer networks. So I just expect, any interviewer just expects that you know at least what you studied for these years. Please don't walk into an interview saying, okay, I don't know what an LRU cache is. It was a part of your syllabus. So that's the thing. So that's just expected in terms of CS things. But for Android, whatever app you have made, let it be a notes app, as simple as a notes app. But at least you understand what's happening in the database. Like what happens when you give a primary key to an object while storing it in SQL. So you will understand that how it works. Just clear fundamentals about whatever you have worked on. Doesn't have to be like, I won't expect you to make a LinkedIn app for me. I'll give you a referral at Zomato. It won't work. Just whatever you do, clear fundamentals. Okay, this is what I developed and this is what helped me. Ratadask and working in an organization. Oh, that's already covered. Work on a personal project. It's something that I have to take time out for. Not on weekdays, but on weekends. I do find the time. Compose versus XML sheets. Yeah, Compose is once again very new to the industry in terms of production level development. There I've read a lot of use case studies from people at Twitter, from Tinder, etc. So whatever I know might be incorrect, but no current company is going all in on Compose. You can't shift your whole source code on Compose. There are a lot of challenges. I know this because of the scale we deal at Zomato. In your personal project, you can decide, okay, it's a weekend, I want to migrate it to Compose. We can do that. It's easier. Just the syntax is the thing. But on production level, there are a lot of issues that are right now in Compose, and all of us are just waiting for it to get stable to that part where we can start shifting major of our apps on Compose. Now, as of now, I do have worked on both of these. Having a knowledge of Compose will remind you of Flutter, what I did back in the days, because it's very, very similar. States and everything is there in Flutter and what I worked on initially. But okay, as a fresher, no one will expect you to know Compose in depth, man. Like, even if you ask someone experienced to how do you exactly make a recycler view in Compose now, they will forget something and will Google that. So just whatever you know, once again, go for XML. There's no need to go full on Compose. But if you do, very good. But don't miss out the basics of XML for Compose. And Amir Hussain asks, Android application audiobook series, so free tools, name, website. Amir, ping me on LinkedIn, bro. We'll just get this cleared. Not able to understand your question. Zomato was a referral or off campus. It was an off campus, but Zomato doesn't hire without referrals. We have this culture around that whatever person you are referring, you should be sure that there'll be a cultural fit and a good developer, of course. That's what we need. So it was a referral, but it was an off campus. And just to clarify, I didn't know the person who referred me at Zomato. Like, he was a random stranger. I pinged on LinkedIn, okay, are you guys hiring? And I got a yes, and that's how it happened. Where to learn advanced concepts like coroutines? Yeah, go to the Android developers documentation or even to the YouTube videos. YouTube videos are a lot more informative because they give you a lot of data in short span of time. To go to that, understand what they're trying to say, and you will actually see that it helps a lot. And okay, for any advanced topic, this is what you should follow. Like, that's my suggestion. See, as I mentioned in the roadmap, see simple, let us say, see the official documentation. If you're not able to understand, go to the YouTube video for that. Follow any tutorial that will help you a lot. Can be anything, and then you can make your application. Then you can go ahead and you have a list of things you can do. Link you showed for roadmap. Cool, will share that. It's on my Medium profile. Cool. Any other question, guys? I think I did cover. Varun, I've shared the link. And just to see whether I've covered or not, hiring process, how to look out for job, where to look out for jobs. We are looking out for jobs is LinkedIn. You are going for internships, go for Internshala, but I guess most of the jobs have now shifted to LinkedIn completely. Reach out to recruiters there. You have the power of LinkedIn in your hands. Go to your web platform, just put in a free note that you can send while sending a connection request. Okay, I'm looking for internships. Are you guys hiring? Blah, blah, blah. They'll accept your request. 90% of recruiters do, whether it depends they reply or not. But okay. So that is the hustle that you need to do coming from a tier 3 college. Ping out people on LinkedIn, ask if they are hiring, and then you will get at least into the loop. How a fresher breaks into the Android industry. I told you guys, just get what worked for me might not work for you. Get in any job that you can find that is interesting of your tech stack out of college. Don't just be hesitant. Okay, I just want to go in Amazon for the first part. You can't control a lot of things in life. So whatever you get, go there, learn a lot, and then you can do switch always. So that's the path that can work for you. Is Android enough or one need to have command entire mobile development stack and tools? No, bro, you can't. Like at any given point of time, no person can say I have command over everything. You might have heard jack of all trades. Being a master of one is much better than being average in everything you do. So just pick anything up, go all in on Android. That's what I've been trying to do. But that doesn't stop me from working on backend or any other tech stack. I've worked on backend, cloud, etc. You name it, I've worked on it. But that is something my preference. How do you improve your debugging skills? Bro, it takes patience, and there are a lot of days when we have to solve a bug that requires, let us say, 2 hours of debugging. So it's just removing distractions and just focus. There's no other way. There's no other solution for that. Patience is required in order to learn debugging or even go with that. Cool. I guess any other questions? Okay, you guys, like not specific to Android, you guys can ask anything, because if you reach out on LinkedIn, that I will only be able to reply to you if I'm free.
There is one question from Sarthak that what is your opinion for someone going all in Flutter?
Going all in Flutter, cool. So yeah, it's not a wrong thing, but what I have understood from my experiences that companies are a bit hesitant for going all in on cross platform, because of there's a lot of lines of code that will be need to migrate it, and there's a lot of blockers in that. You need good Flutter devs, etc. That's not a wrong thing. You can go all in, and there are a lot of awesome jobs in Flutter also. I guess I came across a job that was hiring Flutter, and it was at one of the good companies that I know. So there's no restriction like that, but openings are a little bit less. That can help you a lot in order to get started in the industry in terms of jobs. So there's no wrong thing in going all in on Flutter. Even Cred hires for Flutter. I just searched on LinkedIn. So you do have very nice jobs in Flutter also. Just you have to figure out where do you want to go. Just money. Hi, there are a lot of companies. There are a lot of companies that hire in Flutter. And since Google is going all in on Kotlin multi-platform, so that's a competition that will always be there. There's no single solution to that. Cool. Web development. Can you share the source of web development? Bro, I don't know web development to the part where I can tell you how to do it. I know it in terms of personal project. I can make you a website, but that's just using whatever I know. It's not the best you can learn. So not the right person to ask about web development. And share your stand on to learn from open source or from paid courses. Like there's nothing as paid, I think, according in this, torrent world. You can find everything for free. I learned Android for free. I didn't pay anyone even a single rupee. Rather than my internet provider that I paid that Wi-Fi fees to. But okay, everything is paid free out there. You can go on and learn. There's a lot of platforms where you can find free courses. YouTube is one of them. And just learn from the course, learn the fundamentals from the course, and then go all in and then figure out, okay, I know the development stack now. Now I'll go all in and contribute to open source. So that is the path that I think will work for you. But experiment. Open source might work for you from start itself. Won't be an issue. Cool.
So, yeah, if I'm not wrong, then we are a lot done with questions. But I still urge everyone, if anything is left, please do ask in the chat box, or you can even turn on your mic to ask.
Anything works.
So, yeah, if I'm not wrong, then I guess we are a lot done, and this discussion can go up to any time. So, taking this to the last elapse of this session, I would ask you one question that's certainly specific to us, for the people who are into these societies and work for this. Like, if I ask you, you have been a person who was very well involved in college societies and extracurriculars. How was your experience managing these society work, these co-curriculars, along with your academics and with your placement studies as well?
So, yep. So it did get hectic a lot of times. But since in my time I had the blessing of being in COVID, everything was shifting to virtual, and I guess it has for you guys also. You guys have, a lot of things are shifting to virtual. So what was my benefit? I got to meet a lot of good devs that I know. Like if I know a problem statement and I am heckling around it for hours, I know whom to reach out to get the solution for, or even have a discussion. So that what helped a lot in terms of handling societies, etc. Whatever I did at my time at BPIT, I met some very good friends, and I have a lot of people that are in good jobs, and they are well versed into the development that they do. So that is what will help me. And even communities after getting your jobs. Now I spend a lot of times on weekends or whatever I get the time to actually go and out meet new people in the community. So that is one suggestion that I'll give you. When you guys get into industry, or even when you're planning to get into industry, take some time out and go attend events. Like there are a lot of events for freshers also. Like Android study jams also happens in person. I did attend one at OLX. So in case you go there, you meet a lot of people, and the benefit of attending events is you meet the recruiters also there. So, you are standing face to face to the person that can get you an interview in that company. So that is what helps a lot. So that is how. And managing everything here, it comes down to your priorities, what you figure out, and there has to be a balance. Like, yeah, you can ask, how do you manage DSA versus dev? How do you manage community versus your academics? So I think anyway, there's nothing in BTech that we can't learn in a night for exams. That's what I feel. I might have studied the wrong syllabus because I think it has changed now. But
Yes, sir.
so just figure out whatever is working the best for you, and this helps you a lot when you are figuring out your engineering. I'll say what people ask, where do you see yourself in 5 years? So what I understand is there are two tracks in this industry. You can be an individual contributor or an engineering manager. So manager is, as in the name, is manages people. Individual contributor is, I don't give a heck whatever is happening. I have to write code and I'll write code. So this helps you figure out, okay, what will work best for me. So communities or college, I'll say societies are the initial stages that you can get to see that. And then you actually figure out, okay, this helps me or this works for me or not. So that helped me a lot of clarity on that what I want to become few years down the lane. And that is what it helps. And you get to meet a lot of new people. That's the best part about it. You meet some very good devs.
So summing it all, like as you say, networking is also a thing which helps a lot in your interview process, in your placement thing.
Yep.
So now I would like everyone to please share your thanks in the chat box to Bea. Bea, it was a very wonderful session. I really enjoyed every bit of this, and thank you for mentoring all of us. And I also want to thank the audience for being a patient listener. And I will be sharing the links for our GDSC in the chat box. And I ask every one of you to please join our groups, our Discord server, and to get connected with this stuff. And we will be doing this all a lot in future as well. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye, guys.
Thank you, Bea.